It's time for the Unnamed SWTOR podcast, a podcast so good it doesn't need a name. So without any further ado, here's your host, JD. Take it away, Johnny.
Hello, my friends, and welcome to a very special episode of the Unnamed SWTOR podcast. I'm your host, JD, aka Gaddick Teague, and today's episode is all about the New York City Community Cantina. That's right, this week I was in New York City schmoozing with the devs and my fellow SWTOR comrades at the Stitch Bar and Lounge. It was a great time. They threw a great party, free drinks all around, devs buying people free drinks all over. It was excellent. Great meeting the people. The SWTOR community is amazing. Everyone was so friendly. It was great just talking to any random person. There were some great questions asked, some great answers given. So we'll discuss that. I have a recording of the Q&A portion of the event. They did it in two sections. They did like a 20-minute session and then a 5-minute session in between some giveaways. So if you hear some cutting in and out, that's why. The quality is actually pretty impressive, I thought. It was a great setup. There was a nice balcony area where they were speaking from, and most people were down on the floor asking questions. So I think you can hear pretty much all of the questions. Some of the ones that were further away from me didn't catch really, but you can hear most of what's going on, and the devs repeat things that you probably couldn't hear, so that's great. This sound quality at the beginning is a little suspect while I was trying to equalize the levels in my sound recorder, so I think I ironed that out. Towards about 30 seconds in, you'll start to notice a difference in the volume and the sound quality will be better. If you hear any bleeps and bloops, I'm sorry, I couldn't edit those out. I don't know what that means on my recorder. This is the first time I was using it, and it was doing some stuff. But it's all there. You'll hear all the questions, and then afterward, I will go through my extensive pages of notes. I have, let's see, 6 pages of notes that I took from talking with. So let me tell you who was there. First was Damion Scheubert, lead designer of SWTOR. Andrew Horwitz, associate producer, Eric Musco, who is community manager, and Courtney Woods, who is also on the community team. As well as 2 of the writers who were introduced in the recording, so you'll hear that. It was pretty exciting to have all of them there. They were great guys. I was amazed by how nice and open they were. There was some great discussion going on, but I'll discuss that after you listen to the recording of the event. So I hope you enjoy, and I will see you after the bump.
Red 2, I've got a topic coming in hot, requesting clearance to engage.
Lock as foils in attack positions. You are cleared to discuss.
Damion, come up here. I see Damion over the corner. And Courtney, you want to come up here too? If you can bring all this stuff. Alright, so let me explain to you guys how tonight's going to work. I won't talk too much at you. First, I want to introduce the people that are here from BioWare. Let's see, the person you met at the front door, her name is Courtney Wood. She's one of the members of the community team. Some of you guys might know from the forums. I like the Courtney chant, that's nice. Damion, who's it? Alright, well, Andrew Horwitz is standing right next to me. Andrew, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi.
Cheers! Do you want to tell them what you do at BioWare?
So I do actually do something. I'm an associate producer on the Old Republic. And I also provide excellent feedback.
And for those that don't know Damion Scheubert is standing right next to me. He's one of our senior designers. Damion, I guess that's I design stuff. I've designed a whole bunch of things, including crafting. Chris skills art crafting, so that's the mod system, the monetization, free-to-play transition. So yeah, I've been in charge of a lot of the systems design for Star Wars Old Republic for pretty much the entirety of the project. And last but probably least, for those that don't know, my name is Eric Musco, and I'm the community manager. So if you are on the forums, you probably yell at me. Thank you. Alright, so this is the way tonight's gonna work. As you guys came in, we gave you guys some drink tickets, some telephone codes, some thumb drives. If at any point you want to drink more besides that one ticket we handed you, find one of us, because we have more drink tickets, so we're gonna continue. see. This is going to be a fun crowd. Okay, so the way it's going to work from here is we always kick these events off with a Q&A. The way we'll do it is if everyone can maintain being really quiet, we'll be able to hear your questions and answer them. We'll probably do about a 20-minute Q&A. After the 20-minute Q&A, we're going to give you a chance to win some free stuff via trivia, because everyone likes free stuff. I think so. So I'm going to go over some really basic rules for the Q&A. As long as everyone can maintain those, that would be great. For one, please try to be really quiet so we can hear your questions, and so that everybody else can hear your questions and our answers. Number two, please don't yell random things out while we're doing the Q&A, just because it slows the process down a little bit, and then you guys can get back to drinking faster, assuming you get through that process quickly. Good? Alright, so the last but certainly not least, I know there's a lot of questions that you guys are going to ask, and I want to preface it right now. If you're going to ask a question that you already know we're not going to answer, or you know our answer will be, yeah, we've thought about it, or the answer is soon, trademark, anything where you know what our answer is going to be, that is going to be our answer, so you probably don't want to waste your question on it. Alright? So just let me cover some examples. For one, guild capital ships. Yes, it is still something we would love to do. No, you're not going to see it anytime in the remote future. That's an example. And I know we just announced space, but we're not talking about anything more beyond what you've seen on the website already. So I would try to avoid space questions because it's 99.9% likely we can't answer them. Alright? But anything else is fair game. Keeping in mind again, if you already know what we're going to say, it's probably worth saving your question because that's probably what we're going to say. Alright, we all good? So what I'm going to do is I'll say, we're going to open the floor for questions. If you have a question, simply raise your hand and I will point at you. You can ask your question. Alright? I have someone waving frantically behind me. You can start it. I'll repeat the question on the mic, don't worry. Are we ever going to finish the timeline episodes that were on the website? I'm going to say the accurate answer to that is most likely no. I don't think you will see the timeline series anymore on the website. Can you?
We're doing more of the lore blogs that you've seen recently. So while we won't do voice videos, most likely we will see more lore-based blogs on the website.
Yeah, the timeline series was definitely my personal favorite as well. Alright, next question. Suit and tie. Or, well, you have a suit on, but you have a tie. So let me just make sure I'm understanding the question. What is our aim for difficulty on ops bosses as far as progression guilds is concerned? Horwitz?
Well, very good question. Thank you for asking it. We want to make them as hard as we can, but also fun.
Andrew Horwitz, ladies and gentlemen. Andrew Horwitz.
So, philosophically, what it is with operations is that you want to be sure that you're challenging your best players and keeping them engaged and keeping them looking forward to the next content, but also making sure that it is possible for you to recruit new people into becoming progression operations runners. So that's actually an incredibly tricky balance. Sometimes we nail it, sometimes we're off by a little bit, but that's what we're always trying to do.
All right, next question. I'm going to say you right there. Yeah.
The 8300 Heavy Sonic Needler, are we ever going to get a chance to get that model in any other gun? It's the one that's featured on your website for bounty hunters, and they can't get it.
Okay, I'm going to let Courtney repeat the question.
You're asking if the heavy...
8300 Heavy Sonic Needler, the one that's featured on your website in the bounty hunter section. Bounty hunters can't get that weapon. Can we get that weapon available?
I I know you use Reddit. Send me a message with that exact thing on Reddit. I will find you an answer to that, because I imagine the answer is we will get it to you. I'm gonna guess the people in control of that don't know that, because they did.
I'm going to guess that you saying that and asking that is going to entice both the operations crew as well as the cartel market crew to say, hey, wait, there are assets we're not using. If the assets exist and are in good working order, if you remind us about it when we're more sober, then we will try to see what we can do.
I'm completely sober. I'll just forget. So just send me a message and remind me. I like it. You're there. Is it written down? Do you have it written down?
I just have a question. Chat bubbles, will we ever see them?
Chat bubbles. Will we ever see them? Damion?
The chat bubbles are on the list. They are not they are not soon, TM, but they are somewhere.
TM.
We have some nice big juicy things that we think are going to be better that are next on the list after space. And I wish I could say more, but you know that I can't. So.
Someone else want to pick someone to ask a question? All right, behind us, go ahead. The question is, do we have a target date for new Nightmare content, and will there be a new tier of gear associated with it? So I'm gonna go back to one of my original rules, which is if we haven't released a date, we're definitely not gonna give one. But I don't know, Andrew, do you have an answer to that question?
I mean, yeah, we're always thinking about new Nightmare content, obviously. We do want to up the tiers whenever we do. So I can't give you a date, like he said. So half yes.
Go ahead, guy. What? Guy in the hat. Okay, guy in the hat.
Now he's not in the hat.
Wait, put the hat back on. All right, go ahead.
Will you ever get a portable crafting trainer? The answer to that is you almost got one already in a cartel pack, but we couldn't make it work to a high level of polish. So the answer is probably, because it's an obvious one, but I can't tell you when.
All right, you over here, right there.
All right, with Dread Palace and Dread Fortress, we've kind of wrapped up the major story arc that we've been working towards pretty much since Endgame. Can we get a hint of what's coming next, and will it be more kind of like the movies or more mystical, kind of like what we've been seeing, more fantasy style than the sci-fi style?
The question is, in 2-4, we kind of began to wrap up the story with the Dreadmasters. Can you get a hint to anything that is coming next? No, unfortunately. That's the kind of future content question we just can't talk about yet. Also, I honestly don't know.
Empire or Republic?
Oh, that's a dangerous question. You mean the characters we play normally?
Yes. You mean? Only you mean.
Well, I don't really have a main. I change characters every 20 minutes, so which one should I pick? I still play mainly Empire characters.
Empire.
Empire, with a sprinkling of Republic, but mostly Empire.
Right now I'm playing a Jedi Knight. Screw these guys.
You're outnumbered, Damion. Alright. You got a lightsaber. Can't say no.
Are you guys hiring?
Check our website. Anytime that we have openings, they're up there.
We are always, I can't say we're always hiring, we're almost always hiring. I would check the website, and I will say that's one of the #1 questions we get asked is how we got a job at BioWare. I would actually recommend asking each one of us that question, not while we're standing up here, because I think each one of us have very, very vastly different stories on how we got in.
Like that? Thank you.
Sure. Courtney, pick somebody. Seriously, you're just gonna say behind us every time? Hang on, wait, say that again. Will there be PvP rewards for rating? Yes.
Yes, so we do want to launch Season 1.
I would say wait until season 1 starts. We'll have a lot more information.
When season 1 begins, we're going to expose a whole new set of stuff that you can win. It's going to be a whole other set of things for gears to chase after. So I would look forward to that.
I'm gonna let you ask your question too, because you guys were in a row. So yeah, go ahead. Okay, so you want more information about your guildies, and you want some kind of method of control in case someone goes rogue and steals stuff out of your guild bank?
We want to give that to you. It's hard to prioritize against other things, but personally, as somebody who's been making MMOs for 15 years, I know that people who run guilds are perhaps bigger heroes than the 4 of us because they do a lot of service keeping the community together. Let's give those people a round of applause right now. And right now, I'll also say that it's not just our game. Most MMOs do a really lousy job of giving them good tools to be able to do that better. That's a space I think we can innovate. I don't know when I'll get to do that.
All right, so Right, so you're asking about, your basic question was for what about having like a mass mailing feature for your guild, or a guild calendar, or a guild tithe. The basic question is, when are we going to introduce more guild functions in general?
And yeah, those are all on yonder list of things we need to do. So I have no ETA for you on this time, but they're definitely part of that package of we need to make guild masters' lives easier. So.
Yeah, it's something we get asked at every single cantina event is about guild features. It's something we are not unaware of how badly people want those guild features, and it is something we want to provide, but just not something you're going to see in the immediate future.
Next question.
Go ahead. So you're basically asking about an armory you can access offline that has information about your character? API, well, okay, so two-part question, I guess. Will we ever have something like an armory, and will we ever have an API?
I don't think I can comment at all on the first because I genuinely do not know what that initiative is. The second is, I think that the API is not on our roadmap right now. So
that's probably fair. To the answer to the first question, I'm genuinely not sure either. I know it's something we've talked about doing in the past, but I'm not sure we've ever. The fact that we don't know the answer to this means we're not in active development for it this very second. That's probably the best way to answer it.
The other way to answer it is that the web team is off in their own corner and they do their own things, and every now and then they come out and say, hey, we did this amazing thing. And then we're blown away by it. So
that happens too. So it could happen tomorrow. We don't know. It's not gonna happen. Do you want to pick somebody, Courtney? That guy. Yeah. Can I get another killing? Hang on. Guys, can you quiet down a little bit? Thank you.
Thanks so much.
So, I think the general question is, where do we draw our inspiration from our story? And you gave some specific examples after that, but is that right? Is that the basic gist of the question? As far as expanding on existing lore? Okay.
The short form is that we have a team of writers who are incredibly fanatic Star Wars nerds, and their first our writers have occasionally told LucasArts, the company, that they're wrong about what's in Star Wars. They are insanely rabid about the franchise, and so when they talk about what to do and where to go with the Star Wars stories, What they generally try to do is start with a Star Wars notes. You know, how can we actually do things that feel like they belong in a Star Wars movie? How can we do things that feel like they belong in that ethos? They reach for other media and look for other places for inspirations, but that's always the touchstone is, could this be a standalone movie or at least a really good Clone Wars episode?
Alright, so you actually asked an amazingly good segue question, because we actually have two really awesome special guests that just walked in. Yeah, so I guess many of you might recognize your reputation. Did I finish your last name right? I'm gonna let you introduce himself since I just butchered his last name.
Hey everyone, thanks for coming out. If you're curious, the last name is Carpation, rhymes with suspicion. That's all right, everybody does. It took me years to learn it. And we have another special writer guest here. Lead writer for the game, Alex Freed, is here as well.
Hi everyone. Yes, technically former lead writer, but I still freelance on the game, so I'm still occasionally contributing a bit.
So Alex, where do you get your inspiration from?
Where do we get our inspiration from? So a lot of it is looking at previous Star Wars material, what worked, what didn't work.
See, I was right.
And really finding stuff in there that excited us. You know, we spent a lot of time rewatching all the movies before starting development and going, you know, writing down, you know, notes and going, all right, well, that sort of interaction really, you know, brings out a sort of Star Wars-y spark. We want to have that kind of interaction between companion characters, or we want to have that kind of villain while still trying to make it original and fresh.
I don't think you're going to get a better answer than that. That's from the direct source of people that wrote our game. So, and if I might ask, can you guys please give them a round of applause for the amazing work they've done? Thank you very much, gentlemen. It's much appreciated. And it looks like they're still here, so don't be wandering around. You can track them down. Yeah, let's do 2 more questions, then we'll give away the last prize, and then we'll let you guys just drink. All right? Go ahead, Horwitz. He's putting it in. Will there ever be a new character class? Is that your question?
That is a massive logistical nightmare. I won't say no, but I would say that the number of problems we have to solve is huge. There is a chance in hell we might invent a new advanced class to an existing character someday, because then we don't have to create an entirely new story that lasts for 50 levels and all of that stuff, as well as figure out how all these hooks fit into the existing quest story everywhere. But even that is not something that's on our immediate radar right now.
Alright, we're going to do one more question and then we're going to give prizes. I think I'm going to take you
If you want to ask more about it, you can talk to me afterwards.
Okay. So the question is, can we implement something that makes it basically impossible for you to PvP, like a flag you can set for yourself that makes it not possible? In the open world. So I think there was something a while ago where if you had an NPC tagged, an AoE attack should not also tag a player. I think that was something we fixed. I'll tell you what, I'm gonna look into that. that might be a bug. Like, if you have a mob tagged already, if you've already started combat, and then a player comes in and walks in while you're doing like death from above or something, it should not also hit them. Right. Interesting. Oh. Yeah.
That's good feedback, and I'll look at that. That may be something that we can do some quick fixes to improve.
Yeah. Alright, so that's going to be our last question for the Q&A. I know many of you still have questions, and that's fine, because the four of us are going to be here for the next 2 hours drinking with you. Just find us and ask us the questions. Alright? So we're going to give away one last prize, and then you won't have to hear my voice anymore unless you come talking to me. Alright?
So that was a pretty good Q&A. I didn't think there were a ton of hard-hitting questions. There was some stuff that I wish they had answered, like my question about the future story of the game, but I guess that's something that they just don't know, and that's kind of the gist that I got, that they weren't sure what the next story was going to be. It's still kind of in flux, but they are definitely working on a new story, so that's something to get excited about. I'm happy about that. After the Q&A, they started schmoozing around, and I kind of hawked Damion Scheubert by the bar. We were just hanging out, kind of made a semicircle around him, people coming in, jumping in, asking questions. So I asked him some questions, some other people asked him some questions, so I'm going to try and give you what I took down as notes and what I can remember just from my memory. There was some stuff that he said directly to me, because he saw me taking notes furiously. He was like, "Don't write this down." So I might spoil some of that because I remember it, but some of it I'm gonna leave true to what he said to not do. So, first thing that he was asked was about races, new races. He says that there is a new race in development. It is a long process to get those done. So, we have a race in development. It's somewhere in alienness between Twi'lek and Cathar. So a little more alien than Cathar, a little less alien than Twi'lek. So that's what the new race is looking like it's going to be. They listen to your forum posts, though. If you would like to see a race added to the game, and I think this was a big thing for them, if there is something that you're willing to purchase with cartel coins, go to the forums and say, "I would spend cartel coins on X, Y, and Z." They listen to that. They actually pay attention. One of the people that I was online with for a large portion of waiting and then we're hanging out with at the bar was a big fan of Trandoshans, because he said that in the extended universe, Trandoshans are able to speak basic. They're humanoid, so maybe we could see Trandoshans. So if you want to see Trandoshans as a playable race, definitely go to the forums and post, "Hey, I would spend cartel coins on paying for this as a race." They'll listen to that. Now, races do take a long time, like I said, so it won't necessarily be a fast thing, but definitely, if you have something that you're passionate about that you would pay money for, they want to take your money, so go on the forums and post that. Let's see next. Damion says that story is SWTOR's secret sauce. That's their big selling point. But it's also the longest and most expensive point in the game. So new story takes a lot of time and it's hard work. They have to put a lot of writers into doing it. They have to... Actually, I was talking to Andrew Horwitz, who is an associate producer, who said that the big thing with story is you have to get the writers to write something, that the designers can design something fun to do, and that the engineers are actually able to put in the game. So that's a big, push and pull on all sides. So that's difficult for them to do. But story, he said that story going forward, no class story. We won't be seeing any class story anytime in the foreseeable future. If the demand was such that everyone demanded story and was willing to wait for story, it's something that they may do. But he said that going forward, they would like to extend upon McKeb in that the stories for each class vary more than just the dialogue choices. So the example he gave was, how would Han Solo tackle this problem versus how would Luke Skywalker tackle this problem? So you'd be doing branching paths kind of on the same story. So like 80% everything was the same, but the 20% was more story based and not really story content, but story based. He also said that a problem with the stories is most of the class stories are done. They were finished in the climax of your class story. I'm not going to spoil any of the ending ones, but you did something big that was the culmination of your class story. So you've done that already. We're past that. We're moving on. So that's another reason why they think class stories have wrapped up. And also, they thought it was really annoying from a narrative standpoint of saying, like, the Inquisitor or whoever is looking for ancient artifacts, and you are looking for a Republic senator. And why would these two people be in the same place at the same time? It's just, like, makes no sense. It's hard to justify, and it's kind of, like, Deus Ex Machina. They didn't like doing that, so going forward, story content will be non-class based, but more unique to your class. Alright, let's see, what else do we got here? Okay. I asked a question about space. They said that they didn't want to talk about space, but as Damion was drinking more and more, I decided to try and push the boundaries a little bit, see what they'd give answers on. And this was more of a philosophy question, so I didn't think it was that intrusive. It was, BioWare's stance on free-to-play is against buying power. Does that philosophy hold true in the space expansion? Basically, how does the how do they plan to get paid for Galactic Starfighter? And he was very open, saying, yes, we need to get paid for this. We spent a ton of time and effort in making this whole new system, and we do want to get paid for it. We're a company, we have to get paid in some way. So he says that you should be able to advance in your roles completely for free. All the way up, you can get everything you want for free. He said that there is a additional pay-for role. I didn't really understand where he was going here, but there's an additional role that's kind of in flux that we'll see what happens with that. I think it may be the gunship. I don't know if that's for sure. Don't quote me on that. This is just me talking out of assumptions and, vague recollections. So don't quote me on this, but I think he was talking about, like, some role that you wouldn't be able to fill. You'd have to pay for if you weren't subscribed or something. I don't know. So I hate to spread rumors. I'm almost sorry I even said that, but he said even that he's pushing to be free. And what they do plan on selling is faster advancement, XP boosts, just like you have in the ground game, you have in the space game, you'll have space XP boosts, and customization options, making your ship look cooler, just like in the ground game. So their monetization is basically the same as the ground game. They do not plan on selling you parts of ships that will make you better, but they will sell you advancement ability, so XP boosts, like I said. And then he also gave a great story about free-to-play in general, and I think this was it. This was probably one of my favorite things all night, was him telling a story about how Gamasutra basically says Candy Crush is the devil, the great journalistic juggernaut that is Gamasutra. They believe that Candy Crush is the devil. It's the worst kind of design out there. It's a terrible example of free-to-play. It's the worst thing in the world. And then he said that Candy Crush has come out and said 70% of players beat Candy Crush, all the levels, without spending a dime. So he was saying, well, that's kind of a disconnect from this idea that everyone has to spend money. They're forcing you to spend money. The game is designed to force you to buy power, essentially. And he was very averse to that, and he says, in the olden days when you had like a Mega Man level, and it was rock hard, it was hard, it would kill you over and over and over again, but you didn't think, oh, the designers just want me to spend money, because there was no such thing as free-to-play. It was just the fact that it was hard, and the developers may have been dicks and really wanted to make the game difficult, but it wasn't because they were trying to squeeze every dime out of you. But now, in this free-to-play space, you end up in a situation where if a player dies a couple times, people end up thinking that you're buying power. So if you fail in Candy Crush on a level several times, people are thinking that you're intentionally designing it in such a way that you're forcing your players to pay money. And while I don't know, Candy Crush could be either way. I don't know what side I fall on that. But if 70% of players actually beat Candy Crush without spending a dime, then it's not as bad as everyone says it is, in that they're designing it intentionally to force you to spend money. And just like SWTOR, they don't want to force you to spend money, but if you go into the space game and you get killed right away, it might just be because you suck and not necessarily because they're trying to get you to buy upgrades. You could just buy upgrades and suck again. So it gave me the feeling that they don't want you to go in there and feel like you're getting beat because people are spending cartel coins. They want you to go in there and you to feel like you're getting beat because you're not as good as the other players. And in the same token there, the matchmaking for space will be in a tiered system. It's similar to how ranked matches you. It'll try and get people of even... He wasn't sure if it was even ship upgrade amounts or even ranking, but they will try and match you with players of even. But just like ranked, if you go too long without a queue popping, then it will match a broader spectrum of players together in 12v12. There will be one bracket for 12v12, so in space, so that kind of makes up for the 8v8. 12v12 being bigger than 8v8, a lot of players had concerns that how could you possibly do matchmaking 12v12? Well, it's going to be one bracket from 10 to 55, so in that way they can hopefully get queues popping faster. He also said that another reason for 12 was that the designers went to the engineers and said, how many players in this hero engine can we get in a space battle? What's the max we can do safely without destroying the engine? And they said 24. So that's the reasoning behind the 12v12. Let's see, what else? They said the current space game will continue as far as Damion knows. So if you like the current on-rail space game, that will continue. They acknowledge that botting is still a problem. And this is one of the problems they had with giving fleet comms any much more meaning than they have right now, is that botting is still a problem. So that's that if you care about space. Again, if there's really cool stuff that you'd like to see as far as gear-wise also, they said that they have a big board at BioWare that if someone sees something cool looking in a movie or in anything, they can post it on the wall and they'll try and get that in game. They'll tell the artists to make something that looks like that. So if you see something anywhere, movies, comics, video games, anything you think would be cool and would look really Star Warsy, keep to the Star Wars feel, but look really awesome, definitely let them know on the forums. Tell them that you'd pay cartel coins for it. Let's see, there's the thing that I was told to not announce that I will not announce. There's a question made about the events that we have currently in game. And I brought up the idea that I've mentioned in the past about the events not really feeling like events, they feel like recurring daily areas. And kind of made a face when I said that. But I explained it and he gave me a good answer. He said that right now they can't afford to write code and then throw it away. It's just, they can't afford to do that. It's not feasible in their current state. You can't burn money as a developer, especially for an MMO developer. You just can't write something and then burn it. So their problem, they think, is that they have too few current events to repeat, so they end up having to repeat them too frequently. So that's why things like the Grey event feel like they outstay their welcome, because they're just basically coming back every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks. And they actually lump the double XP in there. So they want to make more of these events so they can do all of them less frequently, so that they all feel more special. Which is cool. And then he also told me not to write something down with reference to events, but maybe there's an upcoming holiday that could possibly have something new that you might know or have heard about before. And that's as far as I'll say about that. Let's see, what else? Talking about ranked PvP, there were servers, this is another great stat. I know I've been talking about the 2-hour Q-pop stat for the average time for a ranked pop, but there were servers that there would be 24-hour periods where not a single ranked 8v8 would pop. So if you go 24 hours without a single ranked queue, there's something wrong with the system. And then actually I talked about Andrew, because Andrew was more of the nuts and bolts guy. I talked to him about the endgame ops, I talked to him about ranked PvP, and he gave me some insight on this. He said that, let's see, where do I have this written down? He says that, BioWare is sorry that they had to remove 8v8, but in a system that was just so poorly recognized, and they said that, yes, they are the developers, they are the game designers, they put this out there, and it's their problem and their fault that they screwed it up. They screwed it up, and they're sorry to the community. They're sorry to all those guys that transferred to one server to do 8v8 ranked. They apologize to those guys. It's their bad, and they fucked up. That's I think that's verbatim what he said. So they understand they screwed it up. They want to try and make 4v4 better. So if you have any feedback on 4v4, go to the forums and tell them. We'll go back to that right now. I'm going to continue on what Damion had said, what I got from him. Let's see. I asked him about the possibility that that Galactic Starfighter was designed with PvE in mind. He said no, it was not. That is far, 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 far down on the wall of crazy is PvE Starfighter. He said the biggest problems would be with scripting and 3D AI, things that they don't have in the game. They'd have to, basically write fresh. The good things about PvE is the good scripting, getting the ability in at the right time that makes it interesting and fun but not unfair, getting those enrage timers right, getting things like a dot thrown out at the right time, stuff like that has to be done really well for PvE to work right, and for them to do that in space it would be a lot of work. So problems with scripting and AI would be reasons that we won't be seeing PvE Galactic Starfighter, so that's upsetting. I'm not happy about that. I wish that we could, but it's understandable, and hopefully they make a good system with the Galactic Starfighter. Story going forward, how would Han Solo? I said that one. He was asked about boxed expansions versus digital expansions. EA has to spend money to get their boxes in stores. They have to pay Best Buy to get shelf space. They have to pay for end caps if they want to get end caps, it's so lucrative and expensive that they actually pay people to go into Best Buys to make sure that they're getting their money's worth. So EA and BioWare like digital expansions because it's cheaper for them. But they do understand that getting boxes in stores does help players and help non-players remember that the game still exists. So he said game cards are nice for this, getting players to remember that the game still exists, but that digital is cheaper. So he didn't say that there will never be a box expansion in the future, but the Galactic Starfighter will be digital. I then asked him how he defines expansion. And I actually loved this answer that he gave me. He said, expansions are content updates that are big enough. Expansions are content updates that are big enough that a magazine wants to review the game again. So, that's an interesting look at it. Anything that makes players want to come back to the game. For a small patch, you wouldn't necessarily get players who don't have friends in the game still, or a reason to get in the game, get back in the game. But an expansion is something that does that. So that's interesting. Not necessarily the same as mine, but I like that very elegant response. That was a good one. And that's all I have written down from Damion. I'm going to go ahead and take a break now. My throat is still kind of sore from last night. Lots of yelling. It was pretty loud in there during the schmoozing session. I will come right back with my discussions with Andrew Horwitz and Eric Musco. So, hang out for the music for a little bit. I'm going to grab a drink of water. Hopefully that helps my throat. And I will be back in a minute. Alrighty, I have some water for my throat, drank a little tea, so hopefully my voice holds out for the rest of this. And we'll move on to my notes I took from my discussion with Andrew Horwitz, the associate producer. Andrew was a great guy, great to talk to. He was on the most recent community update, or whatever they're calling those YouTube videos that they release once in a while when a new patch is coming out. And I told him, I said, most of the time those are freaking cringeworthy. I hate watching them. Like, I can't even stand watching them. But when he was on it was great. And in person, he was just the same guy. He was a great guy to talk to, very personable, very passionate about the game, knew a lot, was able to tell me a lot. I really think they should put him more in a role where he can talk to the community like in that last YouTube video. I think he'd be great at that. So, moving on to my discussions with him, he was more of the nuts and bolts stuff guy. Like I said, he's the producer, and he's the one that kind of is the liaison between all the different teams in the company. He looks at what they can do and what the analytics. He said he loves numbers, he loves percentages, and if someone says something to him like, we should do X, he says to them, show me Y. So, his discussions, I opened up with questions about PvP. I asked him about the Rage Quitters, the potential changes to solo queue ranked. In terms of levers, he said that it's not black and white, and that he isn't exactly sure what they're going to do about that. They're going to leave it as is for now. And it's not as easy as saying, well, just give the other team a win and nothing for one side. It's not as easy as it sounds. And for group ranking, backfilling is something they know about. They've heard your cry for it. In preseason, they're looking, basically right now in the rank system, they are looking how the system goes and will make changes going forward based on how they feel the system is working out. If they feel like they need backfilling, they'll probably put it in. If they feel like they need some kind of deserter debuff or lever protection, they'll work on getting that in as well. I talked to him about the Ultimate Com bump that I was so passionate about last week. He said that he personally didn't know. He'd need to talk to a supervisor about it. He said that it's something he personally didn't know about, but a lot of people were asking him about, so that he would talk to his lead designer to find out more about that and figure out what the deal is with that. But in general, he says that they hate commendations. They hate having that currency tab. They've cleaned it up once. They feel like they need to clean it up again. They think that's a really bad system, even with the tooltips. He was a really funny guy. He was saying that he doesn't consider himself a hardcore MMO player. He doesn't like WoW. But then he says he plays Eve, which he says a lot of people think are funny. Like, How can you not consider yourself a hardcore MMO player when you play the most hardcore of MMOs? And Eve is a tooltip fest, but he hates the tooltips in the bags and all the commendations. So it's kind of funny talking to him about that. They want to clean up the comms tab again. They will be working on that. They said they love reputation, though. They will be putting reputation anywhere they think they can fit it in and make it make sense. They love how reputation is working. They like how it's done so far, that going forward we could see PvP reputations somewhere. We could see in-game operations reputation somewhere. I discussed with him, instead of possibly putting commendations and continuing to bump up the commendations, we could end up seeing end-game reputations for operations, so you have to reach a certain rank before you're allowed to purchase X gear from a vendor. As a different way to gate the top level gear, so you don't have Ultimate Comms buying 78 level gear like we do now. I also mentioned to him the removal of Nightmare titles from the old Nightmare runs. He said that he wasn't aware that you could still get the old Nightmare titles, and that they still want to incentivize the old stuff, but they understand that some people might want it to be more of a badge of honor to have done it when it was the top-end content, and that it's not simple to figure out exactly what some people want. Some people may want to have the mount be the special thing that no one can get anymore. Some people might want the title. Some people might want the gear. So it's not necessarily clear what to do about that, but that they want to keep the gear. They want to keep even progression. They want players to feel like they can progress, and they want to give incentive for players to progress. They want you to go into the hard modes after doing your story modes, because that keeps you playing the game. And they want to make it accessible for you to do that, but they don't want to do it at the expense of other players. He said that he felt like Nightmare modes were a success for what they're aimed at doing, but he was unhappy with how many people actually did them. So I hope he didn't mean that he wants to make them easier. I don't think that wasn't the gist I got from that answer. It was more a gist of he wants players to try more things and be willing to try more things, because I said to him, it's surprising how many people I've seen in this game do a hard mode operation, people that I never think could ever do a hard mode in other games. So I think they've done a great job really providing that stepping stone and providing incentives. They don't want to nerf content down to people's level. They want you to try and do the content because they think you can do it. If you can do a story mode, you can do a basic hard mode operation. It's just a fact, you can do it. You just have to, play and learn. So I think that really was probably the thing that made me happiest about a question and answer that I got, was that answer there. That made me feel really good and confident about how they view endgame PvE content. So that was good stuff. Let's see. The next system, I asked him what the big sore thumb is in the game right now that they've revamped 8v8 ranked, and what he felt was the best thing that they had going right now in game. And he said the next system that needs a revamp is the group finder. Right now it is a wasteland, and it's not just a wasteland on the outside. He knows that there are really long player queues if you're, say, a level 29 looking for a flashpoint. So that's something they understand. And also he said that in addition to that, it is a mess under the hood. The group finder system is a mess, and it goes beyond just what you see. So when people say, why aren't the new story mode operations on their group finder, he said he wants them to be in the group finder so badly because he wants everyone to be playing these story mode operations that want to try them. And that's a way to get players who wouldn't necessarily do it on their own to try it. And that it's really bad that they don't have it on there right now. But it's not as easy as just saying, oh, just put it on the group finder. Because of how it is under the hood, it's not that simple. And it's something that they're going to be revamping. That's the next thing they're looking into revamping after the ranked PvE revamp that they've just done. They hate commendations. They love rep. I said that. They think rep is a great system. Been done very well so far. He talked about there's a triangle that they look at. You know, you have resource quality and time, and you could put stuff anywhere in that area. So if you want something, say, really fast, and you just care about getting out quickly, it's going to take a ton of resources and the quality is going to take a hit. If you want to try and spend no resources on something, it's going to take someone forever to do it and the quality is going to take a hit. And if you want to make something that is of the highest quality, then it's going to take you lots of time and lots of resources. So that's something they're constantly playing with. And what sparked this conversation is I asked about the 8-week content cycle. And they said that at the beginning of the year, this year, Jeff Hickman said to the team, "Can we do 8 weeks?" And the team said yes. So they have done a good job sticking to the 8-week content cycle. They think the 8-week content cycle is a success, but it's also something that they're going to be reevaluating in the coming year. Now, they didn't say that they necessarily want to get rid of the 8-week content cycle. They think they can do an 8-week content cycle, but it's something that they're looking at, and not necessarily something that will be keeping true forever. While I think this could be a bad thing, it could also be a good thing. It sounds like they're more concerned about putting out quality updates in a timely fashion. And that's really what the 8-week content cycle really means. So it's not as much about the number, it's more about frequent content updates of a high quality. And from the sounds of it, it sounds like if something is going to take 10 weeks to get it really polished into the quality they want the freedom to do that. Now, they didn't say that to me. That is not what they said. This is just my inference from what I was hearing from them. That's where they're looking to go, is the make it done when it's done within a reasonable time frame, so that they don't have to spend all of their resources, but they have to spend a certain amount of their resources in order to shave off time but increase quality. So that triangle, like I said before, resource, quality, time, they want the time to be lessened a little bit if possible, if they could increase the quality. Which I think something a lot of people would be okay with. If you got something every 10 weeks, but it was more content and higher quality content, I think people would be okay with that. But they didn't say they're getting rid of the 8-week content cycle. So we'll see in the coming year if they kind of back down from that, if they reinforce it. We'll see what they say, but that's all that had to do with that. Nothing wrong with that. I think that's just fine. And then finally, I spoke with Eric Musco for a little bit, specifically about the Community Cantina events. I think they're amazing events. If you haven't gone to one, try and go to one if there's one in your city. I was asked specifically about UK. They said their goal is to get to UK next year. He said there's a gaming convention in the UK. He couldn't remember the name of it, but they're trying to get to it next year. It's more expensive though, so no guarantees, but they really want to get there. They have every intention of continuing the Community Cantina event. They said it's actually relatively cheap, and they think it's a great means of getting out there. I discussed, this Community Cantina event was around the Comic-Con, New York City Comic-Con. And I said to him, you could be at Comic-Con right now, but you think this is a better allocation of resources? And he said, absolutely yes. You get a targeted audience, you get to really talk to your fans. It's a great means of getting out there. So they want to try and continue this event. Their plan is to do one every month for the foreseeable future. They're going to try and hit every major gaming convention within the next year. So next year they want to hit every gaming convention, both PAXs, both Comic-Cons, etc., etc. So if you live in Austin, there will be one in Austin. He's hammering out the dates. He believes it's going to be in November. So if you live in the Austin area, be sure to check that out. And I think that's pretty much everything for my notes, specifically about the event. Yep, I think I spoke about everything I got here. It was a lot of information. It was a great event. I love talking to everyone. It was great to hear from all the games devs. So super exciting. Like I said, if you live anywhere near these things, you've got to try and head out there. Let's see. And then I also have a list of shoutouts from people I met there. There were a ton of great people, fans coming up saying hi. It was amazing to hear that actually people listen to this and, put a face to the listener. You guys were great. You guys were awesome. SWTOR is the best community by far. Let's see, shoutouts I got here. Shout out to Shawnee of the Esoteric Order from Jungma. Really nice guy, hanging out on the line with him. And a shout out to his girlfriend, who is a trooper, just enjoying the free drinks and supporting her boyfriend for playing the game. She didn't play the game, but she hung out there the whole time, and I'm sure the free drinks helped. Shout out to Mike, who wrote me the great email about the Super Secret Space Project a few episodes back. Thanks for coming to say hi. A shout out to Bryn, the non-podcast listener, who hopefully is listening to this right now. He enjoyed the BioWare podcast, which doesn't sound like we'll be coming back anytime soon. So listen to this podcast and check out other podcasts like the UtiniCast, ToroCast, the SWTOR Escape podcast. Great podcasts out there for you SWTOR players out there. A shout out to Justin, who was also a great line mate. First person to recognize my shirt that I was wearing. It's awesome. Awesome to hear from you. Shout out to Akiwas, or Akiwas, or however you pronounce your name. The awesome subreddit mod who's doing great things working towards making the subreddit look even sexier. Check out the work he's doing on the new banner and stuff. So go to the SWTOR subreddit, check that out. And to everyone else who was there was some really cool stuff. There was a guy in full Sith garb, I assume coming from Comic-Con. Really cool. The people that were there who had no idea what SWTOR was but got free drink tickets. They were cool. People who were dressed up like X-Men characters, no idea what SWTOR was, got free drinks, but were super nice. They gave out their Tonfon codes to all the people that were playing, just asking around for different codes, so they were really cool people. Let's see, is there anyone else I'm missing? I hope not. They were just an awesome crowd out there. So there's also a guy who came all the way from Norway, so SWTOR has some dedicated fans. Awesome event. I was so happy to go. And I think I'm just going to wrap things up right here. As always, if you'd like to contact me, you can send your questions, comments, and concerns to gaddockteague.crr or gaddockteague.crr@gmail.com. Not Hotmail, not anything else, gmail.com. Or you can tweet them to @gteeg on Twitter. Make sure to subscribe on iTunes and give me a nice rating and comment. I have some plenty funny ones on there, nice 1-star reviews, so if you'd like to get a nice chuckle, go ahead and read about the EOR podcast that I apparently do. You also get your weekly content updates. Will go right into your inbox when they are all set up on Monday. So if you'd like to not have to watch me on Twitter and just get your content updates right away, just subscribe on Twitter. If you're new to the game or thinking of resubscribing, I provided my refer a fring, like Gus Fring from the meth guy. If you're new to the game or thinking of resubscribing, I provided my refer a friend link in the show notes. If you'd like a little added incentive to come back, feel free to use it. Jesus, I cannot talk anymore. My throat is killing me. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Unnamed SWTOR podcast. This is JD, signing off.